Another fantastic week of college football. It's in the books, and I just pray and hope all my guys out there, all my fellas, you didn't get talked into and convinced into going to some haunted house or some stupid Halloween event. And the unfortunate reality is there's a bunch of guys watching this video, and I described you perfectly. You got talked into missing a bunch of college football games and a bunch of great games at that. But just like I always say, it is what it is. You can look at it from whatever perspective you want. Like I told you guys in one of the reaction videos last night, I had one of my girlfriends call me up wanting me to go to some haunted house with her and her friends, and her whole argument was, oh, Halloween weekend's only once a year. And I said, yeah, that's a great point, but week 9 is also only once a year. Think about that. Because you know what they like to say, oh, well, there's college football every single Saturday. And true, but there's only one week 9. And speaking of week 9, I say we get straight into it. I don't got time to waste. You don't got time to waste either. You know how we like to start things out with our 11 a.m. games first. And at 11 a.m., we had the biggest upset of the day. And I told you guys in the preview Thursday, pay attention to this game. We got Kansas and Oklahoma. And oh yeah, I'll just throw this out there right now. Florida State beat the crap out of Wake Forest. Didn't even preview it. Saw that coming. And also Penn State beat Indiana. I know some of you may want me to talk about the Indiana-Penn State game, but I'm going to keep it real with y'all. I don't take Penn State serious until they can beat Michigan or Ohio State. Not going to talk about them too much. They're always going to be a team that goes 9-3, 10-2, and in my eyes, they're irrelevant because they can't get over the hump. And that's the sad reality of Penn State at this current point in time and probably for the next couple of years to come. Anyways, getting back on track here, we got to talk about Oklahoma and Kansas. This was a heck of a game, and you could argue and say that this was the best game of the day. On one of the first drives of the game, Dillon Gabriel throws a pick 6, and then you blink, and next thing you know, Kansas is up 14-0. For a split second, I thought Oklahoma might get blown out in this game, but then we had the rain delay, or it wasn't a rain delay, my apologies. It was a lightning delay. That threw off the momentum, and I had the feeling, I was like, okay, this is good for Oklahoma because they're going to come in or they're going to go into the locker room, regroup, and they're going to bounce back, and that's what happened. I would say that the lightning delay definitely helped Oklahoma because they came out, they was making play after play after play, and I was like, yeah, they're probably going to run away with this one. That was my original thought. I thought Oklahoma, once they tied it up and started playing better football, they'd probably win by 20-something points. But hold on, just like Lee Corso says, not so fast, my friend, because Kansas wasn't having it. And that's what really impressed me about this Kansas football team because they hit Oklahoma first in the mouth, then Oklahoma hit back, and Kansas hit back. You see, a lot of times you see these lower teams play like an Alabama, Georgia, or Oklahoma, in this case and scenario, they'll hit them first in the first quarter, but once Oklahoma hits back or once Georgia hits back, the Kansas, in this case and scenario, they don't hit back, and they did. They showed Oklahoma, yeah, you can hit us back, but we're ready to eat them punches, and we're going to keep going at you. That's what they did, and in the second half, it was a back-and-forth game, but it came down to this. Oklahoma, they was playing not to lose. Kansas in the second half, yeah, they made a couple mistakes, but they was playing to win the game, and that's why they won, in my humble opinion. It's hard for me to wrap my mind around this. Dillon Gabriel was 14 for 19. What are we doing, man? I'm not going to throw the play card to the fire just quite yet like a lot of fans, but that's unacceptable. It goes back to this. I thought Oklahoma was playing it a little too safe for my liking. On the flip side for Kansas, Jason Bean, he didn't even complete 50% of his passes, and he had 2 INTs. But all in all, and let's sum this up here, Kansas gets the big 4th down, and that's what won the game. I thought if they would have got the 4th down and scored, they would win, and they did. And there's a lot of things you could point the finger to, but going forward, here's what would concern me if I was an Oklahoma fan. You gave up 38 to Kansas. I thought this Oklahoma defense was getting better and better and better every single week, but it looks like they're taking some steps back. And it's really funny because I see everybody blaming the offense and offensive coordinator on Twitter, rightfully so. But how come nobody's talking about the defense? 38 points to a backup quarterback who had 2 interceptions? Come on, man. Well, they did have the pick 6, so technically 31 points, but you get what I'm trying to say. Maybe, and this is just a maybe, their defense isn't as good as I originally thought. It is going to be interesting to see how they respond. Remember, guys, it's not what happens to you in this life. It's how you respond to what happens to you, so keep your eyes on the Sooners. Fast forward in time to our 2:30 game. I called up, said I did. Delusional take, another bad take from your boy Matt. I had Florida beating Georgia, and yeah, not one of my better moments on YouTube. We'll leave it at that. Probably the worst take I've ever had in the history of my channel. I picked Florida to pull the upset. I don't want to talk about it. Let's just break down the game. Just like that, as soon as the game starts, Florida jumps in on top, and I'm like, hey, I might have been right here for a second. And it goes back to what I said whenever you have a lesser team in Florida playing a team like Georgia. Florida punched Georgia in the mouth, then Georgia's like, all right, I'll show you how to really play, and they just continued to punch and punch and punch, and Florida didn't get up. Carson Beck played out of his mind. Georgia hang up a 43-piece on Florida, but my biggest takeaway from this game is Georgia's defense is so elite. They're really good, man. They're really good, and what's even more impressive about this game to me is Graham Mertz played good in this game, and Georgia still won by 23 points. If I can keep things short and simple, that's what I'm going to do. There is nothing more to say about this game. Georgia was Georgia, and Georgia's just better than everybody else. It's as simple as that. Also at 2:30, I said keep your eyes on this one because Texas had their backup quarterback, Malik Murphy, playing. And I guess it didn't matter too much because they won 35-6. I do think that score is somewhat deceiving because late in the fourth quarter, it was only 21-6. Although I didn't think the game was ever in doubt, I do think the score somewhat paints the wrong picture. The offense for Texas did struggle, but me personally, I'm going to take that with a grain of salt, and I think you should too because they had their backup quarterback. It was his first start. It is what it is, and if I was a Texas fan, I'd be feeling pretty good. You held BYU to only 6 points. Granted, BYU's not the best team in the country, but good defensive performance. Our last 2:30 game we're going to talk about, though, it was supposed to be the biggest and best game of the week, and it just turned out to be a snooze fest. We had Oregon and Utah. I guess this is the week for me being wrong on all my picks because I did pick Utah to win this game. I picked Utah to win for two simple reasons. Number one, I thought their defense was going to be as good as they've been all year long. And number two, their offense. They were riding high off of the big win against USC, put up 34 points. And Oregon, they just shut all that up. It wasn't a game at all. Bo Nix played great, per usual. QBR of 95.2. Doesn't get too much better than that. On the flip side, for Utah's country boy, Bryson Barnes, a former walk-on quarterback, not his best day. I'll leave it at this. 35-6 is extremely embarrassing. It was an embarrassing performance considering you had College game day there. It doesn't get any worse than that, and I don't think y'all need me talking this game too much. I'll throw this in there. Louisville did shut out Duke and beat them soundly 23-0. That shocked me. Riley Leonard did play in this game. That also shocked me. I thought he should have sat out, and he didn't look healthy. I think it would have benefited him more and probably Duke more if he would have sat out. He wasn't at 100%, and the storyline for this game is relatively simple. Duke couldn't score points. I have a lot of bad takes, but here's a take you can't argue with. You're not going to win any games when you score 0 points. You're just not. We will leave it at that, and I am going to talk about this game real briefly, but I can't act shocked. USC gets really lucky yet again because California can't convert a 2-point conversion, and they win 50-49. I'm not even amused by this. It's not even funny. It's just sad. I'm disappointed. I feel like a disappointed father when I talk about this USC team and Lincoln Riley, and especially the defense. And I don't know if I should blame the defensive players because they got talent. I'm just blaming Lincoln Riley from here on out. He's the biggest fraud in the country. Y'all know how I feel about the dude. I made an entirely separate 10-minute video just bashing him pretty much. And it's not even me bashing him, let me clarify on that. It's just me spitting out the facts. This guy's a fraud. It's not a coincidence that the defense sucks everywhere he goes. I hate sounding like a broken record player, and I'm not going to try to do it in this, but let's talk about the game real briefly. Yet again, per usual, I've said this every week, USC's offense was great. Nothing new there. But guess what? Their defense was awful. Yet again, nothing new there. And I tell you this much, man. They are so, and I mean so lucky, California gifted in this game. I know a lot of you weren't able to watch this game because it was on the Pac-12 network. But if you were able to watch it, you know exactly what I'm talking about. USC should not have won this game. They shouldn't even have been in the game. California gifted them not 1, not 2, not 3, but 4 turnovers. And guess what? Off of every single turnover, all 4 of them, USC scored. You just take away one of the turnovers and California wins this game. Or heck, if they just get the 2-point conversion at the end, they win this game. USC's a joke. They're an embarrassment. I don't care if they run. It probably won't happen. But even if they ran the table from here on out, they have no shot of getting in the playoff. And they don't deserve to be in the playoff. It's embarrassing what that program has done in the past couple of weeks. Embarrassing. And let me throw this in there. California isn't even good. Also, another overrated Pac-12 team. I've tried telling you this past couple. I've said this in the beginning of the year. I'm not high on Washington. Washington also got very fortunate to beat Stanford. Stanford's trailing 35-33. They have a beautiful, man, it was such a great call. 4th down play. If the guy would have caught it, he probably could have ran in the end zone, and he drops the pass. I felt so bad for the coach because he did everything. He put his players in a position to succeed, and they couldn't catch the ball. Sucks, and that was the game-ending play, and Washington did wind up scoring, but it was over after that. And it goes back to this same thing for the USC game. Stanford is not that good. They're a bottom feeder in the Pac-12. Washington is extremely overrated. Oregon should have beat them, but Oregon couldn't convert that 4th down, and I'm not going to get into all of that again. Heading into our later night games, we had Tennessee, good old Rocky Top, trying to bounce back after the Alabama loss, and they did. They go into Kentucky home stadium, this game went exactly how I thought it was going to go. I thought Kentucky would have some run success on them, but I thought Josh Heupel, a.k.a. Bobby Hill, would bounce back, and they did. And the crazy part about this game is Kentucky's quarterback, Devin Leary, played out of his mind. He hasn't played this good all year long, and they still lost. 28 for 39, 372 yards, 2 touchdowns, 0 INTs, QBR of 84.4. Really good. Good enough to win the game if you had asked me. As a matter of fact, if you'd have showed me these numbers before the game, I'd have said that Kentucky won probably by 10 points. But that wasn't the case because good old Joe Milton on the night played awesome. Only had 3 incompletions, 228 yards, and 1 touchdown, QBR of 85.6. And on the ground, Tennessee just continues to be the best rushing team in the SEC, if not the entire country. They combined for a total 253 rushing yards. Yeah, that'll get the job done most definitely because Kentucky, with their star running back Ray Davis, only had 72 total rushing yards. Really good win for Tennessee, and I think a lot of people are going to sleep on this win, and they're going to say, oh, it's Kentucky. Kentucky's not that good. They're a basketball school. Tennessee always beats them in football. But this was a year-saving win. Tennessee still has a lot to play for, and if they'd have lost this game, that fan base would have been pretty mad. Big win from them. Not going to talk about this too much because Wisconsin's Wisconsin. Ohio State does win by 14 points, but it wasn't pretty. Defense for Ohio State played really good, but for their offense, it feels like something's missing. To me, at least, I think the only thing that's missing is Kyle McCord has about 6 throws a game where you just shake your head and you're like, man, what is this guy doing? If C.J. Stroud came back and played for this year's Ohio State team, it would be scary, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I do feel like Kyle McCord holds him back just a little bit, but I also feel like he's the best they got. He did have 2 interceptions on the night, but man, I love this guy. He's one of my favorite running backs in the country. Been keeping up with him for a long time. Travion Henderson, that guy's a dog. He's a beast. Love him so much. Everything I love in a running back, he possesses, and Ohio State gets the win. It's Wisconsin. You're supposed to win this game, and I'm not going to really penalize Ohio State for beating Wisconsin on the road by 14 points. Like, come on, man. I'm not about that. Anytime you can win on the conference in the road by 14, I ain't got nothing bad to say about you. Only bad thing I would take away from this game is that Kyle McCord still got some stuff to work on. And last but not least, heading on to our late night games, and for those of you who don't know, I talk about Colorado, how they play on Monday or Tuesday, so come back for that video. What about this, though? I'll talk about this real briefly. North Kakalaki losing to Georgia Tech? Woo, that's another bad loss because previously they lost to Virginia. And I go back to this. When I came out with my top 10 rankings a couple weeks ago, I had so many people say, oh, Matt, how have you put Alabama in front of North Carolina? Yeah, this is why. Still can't believe people thought North Carolina was better than Alabama, even though Alabama had 1 loss. Come on, man. I ain't got nothing to say about this game. Congratulations, Georgia Tech. Party it up. Huge win. Last but not least, though, before we end off this video, we got DJ Oogabadoogie saving the best for last. Losing to Arizona? What about that? I watched this game from start to finish. Awesome game, fantastic game, and I'm just so happy for this Arizona team. A lot of people are going to be like, Arizona, they're not that good. Well, obviously, you haven't watched this team play. They are currently sitting at 5-3, and let me show you their past 3 losses. Their first loss was to Mississippi State in overtime. Their second loss was to Washington, which a lot of y'all, you're high on them, by only 7 points. And then after that, they lost to USC in triple overtime by 2 points. So they've lost 2 overtime games. Pretty much, they are a couple plays away from being 7-1, and you could argue 8-0. Man, that's even crazy to think that Arizona is a few plays away from being 8-0. Unreal. But obviously, they're not 8-0. But my point is, in bringing that up, this Arizona team is legit. You can't chop it up to, oh, they're not, because look at every game they played. They haven't lost a game by more than 7 points. They came to play, man. They came to play. What can I say? And guys, that's all there is to it. I know it was a short recap, but not too much was going on. And if I can keep things short and simple, that's what I like to do on my channel. Trust me when I say this. I love talking college football with all you guys and girls, but I don't like to overcomplicate things either. That's all we got. And plus, a lot of you, I think you knew this, there wasn't a lot of big-time games for this week. There were still good games, but this next week coming up, we got a lot of good ones. Let me just give you a sneak peek. We got LSU, Alabama. That's a big SEC matchup. I believe College Game Day is going to be back in Tuscaloosa for a second time this year. We got K-State and Texas. We also got Ole Miss, Texas A&M, Notre Dame, and Clemson. What about that? Also got Mizzou and Georgia, and there's a couple others I'm missing. At night, I think we got Washington, USC off the top of my head. Also, Oregon State's going to be playing Coach Prime, Deion Sanders, and UCLA and Arizona. There's a lot to look forward to next week. I wouldn't be shocked if that recap's 30 minutes long. I had a great weekend watching college football. Hope you guys did as well. Let me know your thoughts down below. But